Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session where we are going to be having our fifth episode that is going to be about a bridge tutorial. And we, as usual, have lined up a very powerful session for you guys to learn from that is going to be, pertinent to the episode. That is going to be a session brought to you by none other than Miss Kariuki Linda. And so, as usual, you know the drill. We start with the 15 minutes episode. And of course, I am drop the attendance sheet in the comment section. And today, our secret word is going to be crypto. Our secret word of the day is crypto. So click on the link, mark yourself present, and remember the secret word is crypto. And thank you all for joining today. And we are going to start with the video starting right now. Over to you, Ronnie. You can play.
Previously on Jonathan Gullible.
Welcome to Columbus 2 Zoos. You've got the animal zoo, and over there, you've got the people zoo.
Phineas!
You know this guy?
Jonathan's an off-islander.
Okay, off-islander. I'll make you a deal. Keep that tour guide distracted, and I'll help you get back home.
Whoa! Huh? Who's Stulta? Stulta? She gave me her address? Let's go! Ah, Stulta. I guess this is it, Mises. Do you think that girl gave you this broken compass so that I could find her? You're no help. She said she could get me off the island. Maybe she was lying to escape from that prison. Only one way to find out. Huh? Huh? Forget going on that side.
Halt!
Huh?
You country bumpkins can't read.
Huh?
You gotta enter on that side.
It's Avies. I bet he lost it avoiding these obstacles. So they made it this far. Huh? Who puts a boulder in the middle of a bridge? What? Oh! I am hurrying. Huh? You gotta be kidding me!
Be a good lad, won't you?
Hmm.
That's a fella.
Whoa, whoa! What is all this?
First time through the old gauntlet, boyo.
Yes, sir.
I've been to Salta before, but rarely do me wares make it. This time will be different though. Beyond them gates lies a whole new market. As many customers for me pots and pans. Me one pot as you can shake a stick at. I'll be rich, boyo. One more into the breach, my good man. Tally ho! Me pan! Oh, not again!
You ready? Show off. Thanks.
Welcome to Stolta! We hope you enjoy your stay.
Thanks.
Sorry, got to get back to it. These wrecking balls aren't going to swing themselves.
Why do they make it so tough to get into this place, but so easy to get out? What? Mises, how are we ever gonna find her in all this?
Excuse me.
Huh? I'm sorry, I don't have money. Whoa! I'm sorry, man, but I can't buy.
Ain't selling nothing, Sonny. Need your signature.
I don't know, but I was wondering if you knew where I could find something called Block A in the city?
You're not from around here.
Oh, where do I sign?
Just sign below the last name. Right here. You're helping so many people with this.
Okay, and then it's right here. What did you say this was for again?
Glad you asked. This is a petition to protect jobs and industry. You is in favor of jobs and industry, ain't ya?
Of course I am.
The Council of Lords protects local industries. We made progress with our bridge, but there's so much more to be done.
The town wants that death trap of a bridge?
Of course, it helps us buy local by keeping away out-of-town competition. And if enough people sign this petition, the Lords have promised to ban all foreign items that hurt my industry.
Yeah. What's your industry?
I represent the candle makers and coat makers guilds. This petition calls for a ban on the sun.
The sun?
Nobody wants to buy candles and coats with that sun out there giving and heat all willy-nilly. That can't be tolerated.
But light and heat from the sun is free.
That's the problem. Did you know as much as half the day features light from the sun? You know how many more candles we could sell?
Half?
Half! It's all right here. Pretty impressive, huh?
But if people pay more for light and heat, then they'll have less money for meat or bread or anything else.
Take that up with the butchers and bakers. I'm sure they have their own petitions. You're more interested in some consumer sound protecting jobs and sound business investments. Get out!
Hey! Whoa! Whoa! First axes and extra food, then the sun. What will this island ban next? Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Apologies, my good man.
Need some help?
Oh, I can walk just fine. Using these takes some getting used to is all.
You aren't hurt?
Nope.
Then why don't you stand up and walk?
You think I'm stupid? I know the code.
The code?
The tax code.
What does the tax code have to do with your knees?
Oh, everything. We shape our whole lives to fit the tax code. They amended the tax code recently to level the playing field for people of different heights.
Level the field?
Can you stoop over so I don't have to shout? That's better. The Council of Lords decided that tall people have the advantages. Oh yes, tall people are always favored in hiring, promotion, sports, entertainment, politics, even marriage. They tax us in direct proportion to our height to offset those advantages. Equal and fair and all that.
Does anybody object?
A few refuse to get on their knees, but not me. It's too costly to stand tall. I'm strictly middle kneeling class and I aim to keep it that way. If I get bumped to upper kneeling class, it will cost me an arm egg.
What about them?
There are exceptions for our politicians, of course. We usually vote tall. Leaders should be looked up to, right?
Huh?
Good morrow, Meredith.
Good morrow, Francis.
Oh, Meredith, wise woman she is. She'll save a fortune. Maybe I should start crawling this coming year.
Huh? What happened to them?
Oh, it's becoming a popular procedure in Stalta. It helps to accept the tax code changes. Good morrow, tall fellow.
Okay, thank you, and I hope we've all watched. If you're just joining us right, the attendance link is in the comment section, and I said that the secret word was crypto. If my age is still okay and I've not forgotten. And of course, now we are getting to the next session, and I'm inviting Ms. Wambui Kariuki, who is a Bitcoin educator, financial literacy advocate, and the regional coordinator for East Africa at Africa Students for Liberty. She is the founder of BitSavers EduHub, an initiative that equips young professionals across over 20 countries with Bitcoin knowledge and leveraging on saving with Bitcoin. Through her work with Treza Academy Kenya, she has as well supported over 125 graduates in building a cross-border community of financially empowered individuals. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in chemistry at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology with a focus on material science and nanotechnology. She bridges the worlds of science, policy, and grassroots education. She's an alumna of African Liberty and a contributor to the Bastiat's Cross, where she explores free market ideas and individual rights. She's as well passionate about homegrown solutions to Africa's economic challenges and uses education and advocacy to drive sustainable challenge across the continent. If you can hear me, Linda, the floor is yours.
Wow, that was such a nice introduction. Thank you so much, Adam and the team for the amazing job. So that's just me. So I'll be making a presentation on what video we've just watched. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask any question that you might have. You can also just type on the chat box or feel free to interrupt me. I'm happy to respond to your questions. So I'm going to jump right on to my presentation. So today, okay, before I start my presentation rather, so Adam has already mentioned that I'm Linda Karaoke. I founded Beat Savers Edu Hub. I've also founded Treasure Academy Kenya. I'm also serving as the regional coordinator of East Africa at ASFL. And those two are my emails. Feel free to write to me. I'll be happy to respond to you. So in today's agenda, we're going to look at Stalta's absurdity. We're going to also look at the height of our bridges, the cost of a high bridge, also the AFCFTA's promise. We're going to look at the governance and student mobility. We're also going to look at innovations, double edge, and also the bridges we should build. And of course, since I'm in Bitcoin, I have some bias towards my field. So I'll be sharing like 2 or 3 basics on Bitcoin. So feel free to ask questions. So we start off by looking at Stalta's absurdity. So we've just watched the video, and I'll be happy to hear what any of you have taken home from today's video. So what we observe in Stalta, we have so much bureaucracy that actually trumps on common sense, and regulations there, I could say that they multiply like rabbits in springtime. So and because of that, it's a place where the rule book is also very thick than the phone book. So earlier on, before we had smartphones or mobile phones, when phones before mobile phones became a common thing, so you used to go and have your calls from like a phone book. So they used to have a very huge phone book with addresses whereby you could call an office, or you could try to use that to communicate. So you can try to imagine how big that phone book was, but we have like a constitution or a rule, anything that contains a document that contains rules and regulations that is as thick as that or thicker than that, and it is also twice as confusing. So when the bridges are too tall, too ambitious, and too fragile for anyone or ordinary people, it is difficult for us to cross. So in Africa, our bridges could include, number one, we have like the AFCFTA, that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, our governance system, and also financial innovation. So I'll be biased on Bitcoin on the third point. And I came across this quote by Hanan Mosi. He is a chief economist at the UN, and he was presenting this during the UN Economic Commission for Africa. And he said that Africa has an opportunity to leverage the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to break into supply chains, and that would not have been possible before. However, the challenges remains in terms of regulatory reforms, the high cost of doing businesses, political impediments, and connectivity challenges. So I have a question rather for everyone on this call. Do you think that the AFCFTA is weighed down by red tape? So red tape is what I would call bureaucracy, also the high cost and political roadblocks, and how many nations will truly be able to cross this bridge. Okay, so I'll be happy to hear from you. And since we are Africans, okay, let me not generalize. Coming from Africa or being an African myself and being from Kenya, from Stalta, we can use this metaphor. The bridge has been metaphorically used to show the infrastructure of opportunity. So we have like the rule of law. Okay, we have laws, we have trade agreements, and also we have like economic structures within our continent. Okay, however, this continent of ours, we have what I will call a fragmented custom union, and also the quality is also quite inconsistent. So the standards of quality from one country to another may vary. So I'll give an example. If you are farming avocados, or if you want to import avocados to the European Union, you will find that they have different measures of their allowed amount of pesticide that the coating of the avocado is supposed to have, and also how much pesticide should seep into the avocado so that it is safe for consumption. In Africa, fortunately or unfortunately, that is not really taken into account, because mostly when we pick our fruits, or when we pick our produces, and we want to trade within our bordering countries, most or more often than not, we don't have like a standard or a consistent standard that we use. And because of the loopholes that we get, in case the driver or whoever is shipping that produce to that country might have problems with the officers at the border, then that can be used as a loophole for them to either be taken advantage of, or to have their goods not get to that other country. So that could be a loophole that, of course, for a system like the AFCFTA to work, it should be there, it should be implemented, and we should have like measures to ensure that we don't have such things happening. Now, this is my area of concern when we are looking, or rather judging what we've seen or observed in the video. We should look at it from a libertarian perspective, with a libertarian lens. So when we are having regulation, it should enable the free exchange of goods and services, and not block it. So when we have like an opaque kind of standard, whereby we are not sure how much pesticide, what is the allowed pesticide, like we have this pesticide known as the DDT. So I'll not use a lot of chemistry. What I'm going to explain is when you spray like pesticide on your crops, it depends based on the structure, or the chemical structure of the components, or what has made the pesticide. Some chemicals do persist in the environment for longer compared to others. So that means that they are a threat to the environment, and also they are a threat to you as the consumer. So we should be having like very straightforward and clear standards that should be clear to everyone and everyone else, and should be made very easy for anyone to understand. Okay, so we should have free markets, we should have the rule of law being upheld, we should also have a limited government, and finally, property rights should be something that should be highly acknowledged, so that we have people being encouraged to innovate and be as creative as they can get. So we have Adam Smith, who said that little is requisite to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence, but peace, easy taxes, and tolerable administration of justice. Okay, let's move on. So now the high bridge that we are having in our countries, or the height of the bridges in our country, in our countries or in our continents, have led to what we could call an even benefit. So we see our friend here, when he gets to Stalta and he's brought in to sign an agreement to enable to advocate for the blocking of the sun, so that the candle makers can make more profits. Well, when you listen to him, that sounds like something that you will question why that is happening in the first place. But if you think twice, or rather if you think about it, you find that if there's no competition like from the sun, then the candle maker is going to make more profit. Okay, however, you cannot compare how productive you can get when you're using sunlight as opposed to buying candles. But that is not something they've sat down and maybe taken into consideration. So the cost of the high bridges brings what we could call an even benefit, whereby we might have larger economies dominating and smaller ones struggling, and yet that is a loophole that might not be addressed. Okay, blocked mobility. So I am a student at Jomo Kenyatta University. However, at the moment, I'm studying at a university known as University of Turin in Italy at the moment. While during my master's, since it's almost getting done, I've also studied in an university known as the University of Jyväskylä in Finland as well. So in Africa, once we are able to move around, or once we have a common market like the AFCFTA, which is going to be like one big market uniting Africa as a continent. So mobility is something that is very pertinent and also something that becomes an order of the day. So you find that it will be so easy for you to study in another country, and you can use that degree back in your home country. But where we are at the moment, are we sure that if you went and took medicine or studied medicine, took your time and studied in another country, and you come back to your home country, will your papers be acknowledged? A similar case happened whereby last week students from Italy were graduating, and one student from Romania, unfortunately, they couldn't graduate here, yet they have studied partly in Romania and in Italy. Romania is also in the European Union. So the cost of high bridge. So what that student is going to do, maybe more often than not, he's going to take like the extra unit so that he can compensate what he studied in Romania, so that his degree is acknowledged. So you find that right now, a student, of course, will often right now are facing barriers as qualifications can go unrecognized across borders, and also that will lead to the waste of human potential. Finally, we have what I will call market distortion. So for a common market to work, we need to have what we could call a common currency. So in Africa, we have unfortunately some of the weakest currencies, and these currencies do undermine trade and also investment. So unstable currencies also, they make trade very risky. So you choose to hold onto that stable coin that you might have, the USD, the euro, as compared to your own fiat currency. So we'll get to understand what fiat currency is. So you find that there is what we will call informal forex markets. And we move on to hearing from Lawrence Lessig. He said that when we have overregulation, it stifles creativity, it smothers innovation. So innovation is more of chalked. It wastes the extraordinary opportunity for democratic creativity and also for digital technology. The creativity that digital technology enables. So now I've talked about AFCFTA quite a number of times. I am sure you've heard about the AFCFTA before, but let me just share a little about the AFCFTA. So when we talk of the European Union, I'm not sure how many countries we have in the European Union. However, I'll tell you, if you're to fly in from Africa or whatever country and you're going to another country in the European Union, if you maybe the embassy of that country is non-existent in your country, then you can easily acquire a visa from any country in the European Union and travel to that country. Okay, so I'll give an example. So when I was coming to Italy, I flew in through France. So sorry for that. So when I flew in through France, I just had the customs officer sign my passport from there. I've traveled to, I think, 2 countries within the European Union, and I have never been asked for any documentation. They only check your boarding pass. So you find that taking a flight when you're in the European Union is like catching a bus. It's so easy to travel. So with the AFCFTA, this promise is we have the largest free trade area. So it will have like the biggest country membership, will have like the biggest audience when it comes to buying and selling of goods. So we are around 1.3 billion, and also we have like a GDP of 3.4 trillion when it is fully combined. So it is such a big market that is also going to enable people to trade in amongst themselves. Okay, now the peril that we might have, or we are already having as at now, we have what we could call the uneven implementation across the 54 member states. So we have 55 countries. I think some are not part of it. Okay, we also have tariff loopholes, and also this might offer like competitive advantage. We also have corruption, and I think something else we have to acknowledge is that we will be experiencing power change during the time during the implementation, or during the time of AFCFTA as that common market of ours. And as we've seen, each leader in our African continent, every leader has their own manifesto, every leader has their way of doing things. So you find that over time, it's difficult to keep up what the other leader had started, because more often than not, a new leader is going to come in with their new manifesto, new developments, and new things. So yeah, that's just it. Okay, so the balance. So we will have like a harmonized rate. Okay, sorry. So for AFCFTA to work, or for AFCFTA to be seamless, these are some of the things that it is working on, or it has already implemented. So one is like harmonized regulation. Number two, also ensuring that it is able to have like the member states be in a position to trade amongst each other. So the lack of that, okay, if that doesn't happen, so if that doesn't happen, then AFCFTA risks becoming one of just like Stalta's collapsing bridge, and its success, of course, requires both ambition and enforcement of also the enforcement of capacity. So we have like the governance, of course, as I had mentioned, every leader comes in with their own manifesto. And of course, for AFCFTA to stand firm, we need a very nice dispute resolution system. And how this could be done, number one, we could have like arbitration centers, we could get maybe regional courts, and also maybe coordination among like the existing RECs, the likes of ECOWAS, East Africa Community, the SADC, and to ensure that the government is lean and also predictable and also transparent in guiding the trade, and not micromanaging anyone, especially those that are conducting their own activities or conducting trade. So we have another quote that I got in relation to that. Unfortunately, I couldn't place the owner of the quote, and he said that governance is the unseen foundation beneath the bridge of progress. Okay, without it, even the strongest structures collapse under the weight of uncertainty. Okay, so governance is one very important thing. So let's move on to the student mobility. So I had started off by saying that with the AFCFTA being implemented, even before AFCFTA, we at least know someone who has studied from a different country within the continent. So when we have student mobility, what we do, we are building human bridges. Okay, so when we are building human bridges, number one, what we are able to achieve, we have what we'll call recognition framework. Okay, for this to be achieved, we need a recognition framework. So to ensure that we have like standards for qualification. Number two, like digital credentials, so whereby we can have like continental standards for qualification recognition. Then we should be having seamless movement. So establish continental standards for qualification recognition across all African universities. Okay, this is an issue. I think I might have made a mistake there. So apologies for that. I'll send an updated slide. So now let's move on. With all that being said, let's look at what kind of bridges do we really want, or what kind of activities do we need to ensure that our bridge is reachable within our reach and it is strong enough to not collapse. So number one, we have what we call the promise. So I started off by saying that I teach Bitcoin and I am a Bitcoiner. So why Bitcoin in the first place? So if you travel from any country to another country, okay, unless you are in the European Union or you are in the US or countries that accept stable coins or the likes of USDT and not USDC per se, the countries that use USD dollars as their like legal tender, you find that you are more often than not likely to ensure that you change your currency from one currency to the other. Okay, so to ensure that we don't have this problem of incurring costs anytime you have to convert your money from one form to another, we've had like innovations that have happened also to ensure that the AFCFTA is able to carry out business. I mean, the AFCFTA is going to be a market, a common market that can benefit everyone. I mean, the 1.3 billion people, are we billion or a trillion? Okay, so to ensure that those people are able to trade amongst themselves, so we have this promise of what we call Bitcoin. So Bitcoin and also the Pan-African payment system, they have made it easier and also faster and cheaper for African countries to trade with each other. Okay, the risks that we might be having, or some of the risks associated with everything that's happening at the moment. So we might be having what we could call innovation that is not regulated. So other than Bitcoin, we have what we call cryptocurrency. Okay, so what is crypto? I'd like to hear from anyone on the chat. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone can type. Okay, but if you have like an idea of what crypto is, I really want to hear from you. So, in the simplest of the simplest words, I will say crypto is digital currency. Okay, now digital currency, not all digital currency is crypto. So crypto, we have a word that we could call encryption. So with encryption, I would say I can encrypt my name, whereby the most common way of doing it is by using SHA-256. I think I could do. Okay, I'll demonstrate it later on. So with SHA-256, I could fit my name as Linda, and I get characters, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, that if you encrypt those characters, they are going to give you Linda as the output. So I would say that encryption is a way of like writing your name or writing something in a way that you can any layman cannot understand, but if fed to the right medium, either it's a wallet or either it's a wallet or an exchange, the exchange is going to understand that this is our wallet address. Okay, and it is a wallet address for Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum or whatever. Okay, so unfortunately with crypto, anyone can come up with their own crypto, and they can give it the properties of money, maybe make it scarce, make it portable. Of course, crypto is very portable. Ensure that it has characteristics of money. Unfortunately, with all that is happening, so many people have been conned, or so many people are victims of fraud through cryptocurrency. Okay, why that? Well, why we have had so many loopholes? It's because number one, crypto is not regulated. Fortunately, for those in Kenya, we have what we call the Virtual Asset Supplier Bill that was signed into a law, I think 3 weeks ago. Now, we will get into the nitty-gritties of that. So one thing I say that we have Bitcoin and also have the Pan-African payment and settlement system. So this is being right now is currently in use by the AFCFTA, but Bitcoin has been there before. It still is to date. Okay, so I will avoid talking about crypto and I will focus more on Bitcoin. Okay, so now let's move on to the path forward. So well, innovation is good, but if it's not regulated, of course it creates distortion, sorry. And Africa risks experiencing its own flash crashes. We'll get to understand what that is as unregulated market as unregulated markets attract manipulation. Now, I go on and explain that Bitcoin in itself is voluntary, it's borderless, it's censorship resistant, it empowers individuals against inflation, corruption, and state control. Okay, so Africa should regulate lightly. I mean, focusing on fraud prevention and not stifling independence or freedom. So the three critical freedom policies: number one, harmonizing the trade rules, ensuring we have very well clearly stated rules and regulation, ensuring that especially procedures are digital such that if there is need for tracking, then it's easier. We don't have substandard ways of documenting things. Number two, strengthening dispute resolution, ensuring that we have independent continental arbitration centers, so with binding authority to ensure consistent enforcement. And finally, which is what I'll now stress more on from now henceforth, is the regulation of financial innovation to develop a continental wide standard for digital payments. I feel that the virtual asset supplier bill is going to favor Kenyans to some extent, but it's also going to work to their disadvantage, especially right now. I'll be explaining more about it. You find that if you are a supplier of a virtual asset, so what is a virtual asset? Let's start off with what is an asset. So an asset is a property, okay? So if your property now is virtual, that means it's digital. So you can't touch it, but it's there. Okay, so with the virtual assets, now those that are in Bitcoin, anyone who has an on ramp, what is an on ramp? An on ramp is how do we call it? It's an intermediary that enables you to convert your Kenyan shillings, your Ugandan shillings, your Malawian kwacha, to convert all that currency into what we could call Bitcoin. So it's an on-ramp, okay? So, and then we have an exchange. So an exchange is, the most common one is the likes of Binance, maybe Paxful, whereby you can do a peer-to-peer trade. So we can have you give your Bitcoin or whatever coin or token you might have, and then you receive your Kenyan shillings, okay, or receive whatever currency you need at the moment. Okay, we also have what we call an off ramp. So if you're in Kenya, we know of Tando, so I'll share more of this. So Tando ensures that you can spend your Bitcoin directly. So if I have a bill of 100 bob or 20 shillings, what I just need is that I'll do anything. I'll choose the pay bill selection. I can so we always have pay bill. Number two, we always have lipa na M-Pesa. Okay, pay bill, lipa na M-Pesa, or send money. So I can send it. So you will receive Kenyan shillings, but I've spent my own Bitcoin. Okay, so anyone who's running all that, not to mention Bitcoin wallets. So a wallet could be of two types. So we have what we could call a self-custodial wallet. So that is equivalent to you having your own bank. So when you have your own bank, you have everything with you. So that means that if you hold the pin, like no one else has what we call the pin. The beauty of it, Bitcoin is not stored in your wallet. Your wallet just hold the private keys for you. Now that's a whole new jargon. But before we go on, I think I could end with this slide, and then we get into just a little bit of what Bitcoin is. So now, what are some of the bridges that we should build? Number one, our bridges should be strong enough to carry innovation. Okay, so Africa economy's future rests on bridges that can carry the weight of innovation, from Bitcoin to the Pan-African payment and settlement system. So these tools, of course, are going to revolutionize trade. Okay, we also have our bridge should be low enough for all to cross. Now, this is not me being pro-communism. No, 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 no. I don't advocate for that, but let me explain what I mean with this statement. So our policies should actually ensure that there is less barrier of entry, not ensuring that people need to squat or crawl, walk on their knees, so that so that the short people don't feel less intimidated. No, it's just that the policies should ensure that they are accommodating enough for anyone to be met at their point of need. Okay, then they should be resilient enough to weather the storms. So I think what I could say, our governance or our presidency or our leadership should be open-minded. How that should happen or how we will get that, how we will get to that. That's something that we can all try and chip into. However, I feel that, or I know that, or it is found that when we have proper governance and limited government, and a government that cannot influence what is happening with the treasury, so you find that there's less economic shocks, and political transitions should not affect any kind of goals or any kind of agenda that was there and that was meant to ensure that was actually also working, and that was meant to better lives. They could only improve on it and not like scrap it off like entirely in its totality. So the regulations should bend with the wind and not break under it. Okay. And you, as a person, and me as a person, when regulation fails, of course market collapse under their own weight. So you as an African, me as an African, everyone who is an African should aspire to build a bridge strong enough to carry innovation, integration, growth without collapsing under distortion. Sorry. So Bitcoin is such a bridge, voluntary, borderless, and resilient. So that was going to be the end of my presentation. I only have 3 more slides to explain what Bitcoin is, okay? So before I get to understand, I mean to explain what Bitcoin is, I'll start off by explaining the history of money. So a long time ago, as you can see where we have the barter system started back in 9000 BCE. So we had, you could exchange a commodity for a commodity. Now, the biggest problem was number one, the double coincidence of ones, and number two, the lack of divisibility, and we lacked what we could call the measure of value. So what is the function of money? Money has 3 major functions. Number one, it acts as a as a means of exchange. Number two, it is a measure of value. Number three, it also so it helps with it's also a store of value. So you can store money for a rainy day, knowing that that money should help you. Okay. Now, nowadays, the fiat currency. So what is fiat currency? Fiat currency is currency issued by decree. So if you have Kenyan shillings, if you have Ugandan shillings, if you have Tanzanian shillings, if you have the Zambian kwacha, the Malawian kwacha, the South African rand, the Nigerian naira. So if you have all that working for you, you find that that money, it derives its value from decree. What the government has, whatever value that the government has attached to it, that's what we all believe in. However, that money is subject to manipulation. So when now let's move on. So back then, when we didn't have like a unique way of trading things, people then moved on into using things that were a little bit rare. So they could go for gold, of course, the precious metals, and from there we went on to minting coins. So the first coins were minted from alloys, and however, even in the Roman Empire, we had the coins being messed up in that people realized if we're using silver, maybe 5 grams of silver to mint like 1 coin, how about we go for a cheaper metal and we increase the supply of our metal coins? Who will know? Unfortunately, the supply of coins is now more. So the demand, of course, is going to be less. So the value of the coins is also going to be less. Then we moved on to having paper money, of course, due to the loss of, the issue of portability. And between 1945 and 1971, we had what we could call the Bretton Woods Agreement. So all the the gold was seized from Americans, and of course they were the largest reserve, especially after World War One and World War Two. And because of that, now money stopped being backed by gold. Before then, money was what we could call the gold standard, okay? And after that happened, 1959, we got the plastic money, so that is the plastic cards. And come 2000, and not really 2000, and in the late 90s, that's when we moved to electric money. And also we had like crypto was being developed. Unfortunately, the real problem was the money was never fully decentralized. So decentralized is that the money was never like fully able. I mean, the money wasn't fully independent. So we still had centralization, whereby we had like a central authority. Now, the 2008 financial crisis in the US, of course, was one of the biggest crises that happened. And when the crisis came, the government actually bailed out people with the taxpayers' money. Unfortunately, those that were wealthy ended up with their interest being protected. This is a common problem to date with the fiat world. You find that due to what you could call the cantillon effect, everyone who is close to the money printer, they are the ones that benefit first. And the far you are from the money printer, the longer you take to benefit from the system, okay? So then came the blockchain, which enabled what we could call security, scalability, and decentralization. So with security, number one, encryption happened, and we had people now using Bitcoin wallets. I mean, wallet addresses that couldn't like be pinned on you. I mean, you don't have to use what you could call KYC, know your customer. So you don't have to use your personal details for you to acquire a wallet or use it. Next, sorry, we got to scalability. So with scalability now, you're able to regulate a certain amount of money, so the supply of money could be fixed, okay? And decentralization, because of the blockchain, then we could agree that not a single person is going to control the system, but we as a whole are going to control the system. And that's how Satoshi Nakamoto managed to bring up what we could call Bitcoin. So that is it on my end. I really hope this was an educative session. I'm so open to any questions that we might be having. And that is my project. The name is BeatSavers EduHub. Feel free to follow us on X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to submit them or subject them to me. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Adam. Over to you. Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Linda, we can get you, and thank you so much for your wonderful session. Let me bring up the questions, and let me just check the chat box to see if there's any question. I see there's a comment from Danson that says, "This is amazing. Before this session, I used to hold on to rumors about Bitcoin. As at now, I have some basic information, and that is very good. You can reach out to her using the email she has on the screen, and she'll be able to take you through her work. I know she has classes on Bitcoin, and people do get to graduate, so that could be something of worth to you." There's one question that I see here, and it's from StatsCode. It's up on the screen, and they ask, not so sure if this is a lady or a man, so I'll say they ask, what role should the African Union or central banks play in coordinating crypto adoption for the AFCFTA?
Okay, yeah, I think that's a man. I think this is Martin. So what role should the African Union? So I'll not stress on the African Union first. I'll go on to the central bank. So with the virtual asset supplier bill being signed into law right now, the first thing that has happened in the countries that have signed similar bills, number one, they actually acknowledge Bitcoin or crypto as legal tender. That is one thing. So when Bitcoin or crypto is accepted or as legal tender, you find that it's now easier for people to accept Bitcoin for in their businesses. I mean, to use it as a medium of exchange. So by doing that, that helps, or rather, that could help with the adoption. That is number one, and with adoption for AFCFTA, I mean, this is an initiative that the AFCFTA should take on as a project. So to begin with, I had said that the AFCFTA came into introduced what we could call the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. So they use this through a bank. I forget, I am not sure which, I think it's I am no, let me not share what I'm not so sure about. So since they use that, because ideally in Africa we don't have a common currency. However, if the central banks are to enlist these virtual assets, and that is inclusive of Bitcoin and crypto. Okay, I really don't want to talk about crypto because most crypto is not regulated, and most of them are more of scams. So if we look at Ethereum, if we look at these Trump coins and everything that is happening, the volatility is too bad, such that you cannot even be sure that whatever you have in store right now will be worth what how much it will be worth come tomorrow. And because they are centralized, so they are also subject to manipulation. And if they are not regulated, then they shouldn't at any point be recognized or even acknowledged by the central bank. So what the central bank should do, number one, in helping the coordination of crypto adoption for the AFCFTA, the easiest way to do it is to ensure that they enlist this currency as legal tender. So that by itself, people will always find a way to figure out. If the PSS doesn't work for you, of course, you will go for Bitcoin if it's easier for you. So that's what they should do. Yeah, that's my submission. Okay, do you have another question maybe? Okay. What's the difference between digital and virtual assets? Okay, so digital and virtual assets. Well, I feel they are more or less the same things, because what is virtual is something that you can't get hold onto, and digital. So I will say all virtual assets are digital, but not all digital assets are virtual. Okay. So that's a very interesting way of putting it, but that's the answer. So I think a good example is we have like the digital version of Kenyan money. Of course, that is not crypto, but crypto is digital. Okay, so how can virtual assets impact the Kenyan economy positively? Well, I would say not all virtual assets to begin with will actually impact the economy positively. Number one, for an asset to impact the economy positively, it is going to be based on the characteristics or the values of the asset in itself. So a good example with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a deflationary tool. So that means that if you hold on to Bitcoin and if you choose to have Bitcoin Bitcoin as your store of value, that is, you save with Bitcoin, you find that whatever value that you store today, your Bitcoin is going to be worth the value of your Bitcoin come 5, 6, 10 years from now will be worth the amount that you had held on to based onto the current inflation system now, I mean inflation rates. So a good example is if over time we've seen Bitcoin become number one, less volatile, and number two, retain its value. Okay. And what that has happened is you find that based on the value of Bitcoin actually changes with the inflation of a particular country. If you save 100,000 Kenyan shillings today and you want to use it in 10 years, if you sink that on a money market fund, you get like 1,000. Is it 1,000 or 10,000 at the end of the year? However, at the end of 10 years, maybe that 10,000 times 10, so that's 100,000. So you'll get like 200,000. Unfortunately, you might find that inflation might like have knocked out its value by then. I mean, 100,000 is not what it's not as valuable as the 200,000 in 10 years time. However, if you use Bitcoin, which is a deflationary tool, I can't predict how much money it is because Bitcoin is not like a Ponzi scheme or a get rich quickly kind of a scheme. What it is an asset that holds the value, or rather it strengthens the value, not strengthens per se, it stores the value or preserves the value of your assets, okay, of your money. Okay, so if someone escapes with currency like CryptoQueen did, how does it impact the general market? Well, I said that Bitcoin, number one, is decentralized, so we don't have like a common officer. Number two, since your money is on your Bitcoin is on the blockchain, of course, the supply is still going to be there. So if you run away with the money, it doesn't affect us in any way. But if you lose your money, that is, if you lose your private keys and you cannot have access to your Bitcoin, that means that our Bitcoin, now we have less Bitcoin in supply because we call that lost Bitcoin because no one else can recover it. So now the supply of what can be used, that is what I can exchange for other currency or I can store, the supply is now less. So the value is now more. So what is the difference between digital? I think I had answered that. How can the virtual assets, let me see, assets impact the Kenyan economy? Yeah, they can impact it positively based on their characteristics. Like Bitcoin, of course, I have seen it firsthand in Kibera, and of course by maintaining or storing the value of people's assets and investors keep protege. Why do crypto prices? So that is what we call volatility. So volatility can be as a result of different issues, number one. So I had said that most of these crypto, most of this junk, most of these yada yadas, I would say that they are not fully decentralized. So we have someone, we have someone on the back end who is controlling the supply or who is controlling the supply of this Bitcoin at the end of the day, not Bitcoin, oh my, the supply of this coin at the end of the day. So I'll give you an example. If you've not eaten for a whole day and I come with an orange, I offer 10 shillings for it. I mean, I offer 100 bob for it. You're more willing to give me that 100 bob if you're not sure if you're going to find any amount of food at some point. However, I mean, anytime soon. However, if now I offer the same, I mean, if we have 100 other oranges present, like maybe just in the next room, and I offer you an orange for a shilling, you will not be willing to spend that 1 shilling of yours. So if the supply is more, or rather, if the supply can be manipulated, then you find that the volatility is really, really, really likely to be something that is going to be happening because now we have more. So the demand is, of course, maybe less or it has stagnated. So the value will keep on changing very unpredictably. Okay, so is crypto safe from scams or frauds? I would say Bitcoin is, crypto is not. Let's move on. What role should African Union, I think I had here, is Bitcoin a saving platform or an investment platform? Bitcoin is money, digital money. So the beauty of Bitcoin as money, it stands out in in its properties as money because number one, it is fixed in supply, so it is not subject to inflation. Number two, it is decentralized, so you have full control of your money. Like you are not worried that one day we will have like your money, someone will come and take away your money from you. And also you can have what you call full custody. You don't have to trust a third party. You can be your own bank. Okay, so Bitcoin is money. Let's move on. This is amazing. Okay, remember. Okay, let's see.
Let me help you, Linda.
Okay.
The next question is on the screen, and it's how can virtual assets impact the Kenyan economy positively?
Okay, thank you so much, Adam, for that. So the virtual assets, let's talk about Bitcoin and not other virtual assets. So a good example, if you visit maybe an informal settlement today, you find quite a good number of us, number one, who are very unbanked or underbanked. So what do I mean by these two terms? So if you don't have what I will call quote unquote security or an asset to hold on to, if you're running a business, it's a little bit difficult for the bank to loan you some amount of money. Now, as a business person, you need a loan, maybe to expand your stock, maybe to become let's just say expand your business. Now, if your bank that you've been saving your money with cannot trust you with their own money, then it is quite difficult for you to advance your business. That's what I would say. So you find that if you have a virtual asset like Bitcoin and you are your own bank, number one, that asset by itself, it protects, or rather it preserves the value of your money. So you don't have to worry about your money losing its value, courtesy of inflation. That is number one. Number two, if you have Bitcoin, you don't need to have any form of documentation, so that you can, for you to have a bank account, you need to have what I will call, for you to have a bank account, you need to have a document. So you either need a passport or you either need, what do we call it, a national ID. And I don't want to victimize anyone. You might find that for some reason, you might not be in a position to have your documentation. Being we have people that are refugees, we have people that for some reason are undocumented. Okay, so next, the other thing that we can look into is the fact that if you are what was I trying to say? If you have your own bank, or if you have a bank account, you are able to buy goods and services. I mean, from abroad, not abroad per se. You can be in a position to conduct trade at the same time. So if you don't have a bank, and M-Pesa here counts as a mobile bank as well. So you're not able, rather, as a business person, your ways of accepting payment is limited. That is number one. Number two, also you as a person, you're not able to store your money for a rainy day. Now, how is it going to impact Kenyan positively? In Kibera, we had like people that were operating their borders, and for some reason it was a little bit difficult to get them have their insurances and also have them get what we could call a license. So what we did, so we have like the AfriBit Kibera project. They indulged an insurance company, and also indulged a licensing company as well. So for you to get your license, of course, you need to go to driving school. So to a driving school rather. So they indulged a driving school. So what has that happened? Why these people were not able to pay before? Number one, they couldn't, maybe they didn't have bank accounts. Why? They are either undocumented or underbanked, so they are not even able to save that money to have it like accumulate enough to get a license or get what I would call an insurance. Okay, so you find that if you now have access to a virtual asset that doesn't need any form of documentation, that serves you, you don't have to have maybe a smartphone or have a gadget. I mean, you can have Bitcoin anyway, as long as you have like your private keys at the back of your mind. You can have what we call a paper wallet. So that being said, then if you're having a bank or having a means to store your value is going to impact Kenyan economy positively, because we are going to impact people's economy. We are going to impact people economically first. So yeah, that was my answer. Sorry, Nathan.
Thank you so much. The second last question is from Nathan Kipchumba, and he asks, what is the difference between digital and virtual assets?
Okay, thank you. So the difference between digital, okay, let's start with virtual assets and then we go to digital. So for something to be virtual, it means that you can't touch it with your own hands. Okay, so if something then is virtual, okay, everything that is digital, you can't also touch it with your own hands. So I'm going to say that all virtual assets are number one digital, but not all digital assets are virtual assets. Okay, let me explain what I mean. So with what has been listed in the virtual asset supplier bill, law now, because it's already a law, you find that some of the virtual assets, we will take Bitcoin as an example. So Bitcoin in itself is a digital currency. Okay, but we also have what we call the e-money, the Kenyan e-money, the e-cash, the Kenyan e-shilling, so the Kenyan digital currency. Sorry, so the Kenyan digital currency in itself is not a virtual asset. But Bitcoin in itself is digital and it is a virtual asset. So the difference between the virtual asset, I would say the virtual asset, right now we are being guided by what is enlisted on the law, but not all digital assets are virtual assets as at now. Does that answer you, Nathan?
I think that does. The last question is from Mpoza Moto. Okay, very funny name. And they ask, if someone escapes with currency like Crypto Queen did, how does it impact the general market and affiliates?
Okay, thank you. So with Bitcoin, you disappearing with currency will not affect exactly will not affect us in any way. However, if you lost your Bitcoin, that is, you're not able to access your Bitcoin, then that works to our advantage, because that counts as lost money. And because the supply is fixed, that means we even have less supply. So that means that our Bitcoin is more valuable. So how did she escape with the money? I have watched what the Crypto Queen did, and honestly, I'm yet to understand what exactly the video was all about. So I'll give an example with Bitcoin. So if today I have like one Bitcoin, I think right now it's around 97,000 USD. So if I got away with the 97,000 USD, it wouldn't affect anyone. And if I have been doing self-custodial, I mean, I have been practicing all the good practices, then you are most likely not to ever catch me. Because if I'm using a self-custodial palette, I don't have anything that you can use to trail me, or you can't use to tail me with. Okay, so because of that, that wouldn't affect anyone. I would live my life and it will be difficult for you to find me. Now, if the crypto queen lost her private keys and she now doesn't have access to her Bitcoin, what will happen is, number one, that will count as lost Bitcoin. So that means that no one can access that money. And because the supply is already fixed, it even becomes even lesser. So because of that, you find that now we have less supply, the demand is raising by the day. So what happens? Our money gains more value. So our Bitcoin will be worth more. That will be the answer.
Okay. Uh, Thank you so much, Linda, for that whole session. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. I'm going to leave the attendance sheet running for a couple of minutes, just in case you forgot to mark yourself present. And I said the secret code is crypto. And see you all in the next session the coming Friday. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you so much for having me.